Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to give a word of thanks to Isabel and James Ellsworth for giving us this wonderful opportunity to showcase home island Curacao to the world. Today is a great day for Curacao, and we are showcasing our home island today to the world with this amazing presentations. My name is Sharnon Isenia. I'm one of the ambassadors which have been selected to participate in the training of the ambassador program of Island Innovation, to facilitate the organization of an island innovation hub. The idea of an hub is to connect the local community to international networks of islands. Curacao, if you may know, is in the Caribbean. If you can see on my screen, we are very nearby Venezuela. Curacao has been experiencing great changes in its development. Curacao undergo transformation post-slave era of being the biggest slave depot in the West towards the industrial area with the establishment of the biggest oil refinery in the Americas during World War II. The excellent harbor and stable government conditions on Curacao were deciding factors for the establishment of the oil refinery in 1915. Today, more than 1 century later, Curacao is experiencing a tremendous decline into its oil sector and is exploring new ways by implementing innovative systems and techniques. Curacao conquered the process of desalinating ocean water to clean drink water. The first desalination plant on land was built on the island of Curacao in 1928. Curacao today enhances energy security through green energy supply, which you will see in the presentation. For today's program, Zulaika Mook is our MC. Zulaika is our Sector Director of Economic Development and Innovation at the Ministry of Economic Development. If you, after this presentation, you need to connect to one of more speaker, please contact Zulaika. Please enjoy this amazing presentation. I will pass the word to Zulaika. Have a good presentation.
Thank you, Sharnon. Thank you very much. Very good morning, bom dia to all of you participating in this event. Warm welcome from our behalf, and we are very grateful to have you here present with us. Bombini. We are glad that you are joining us today, and I'm sure you are also excited as we are to learn more about Curacao Zakitó area sustainable development, but also other renewable energy sustainable projects in Curacao. Like Sharnon said, my name is Zulaika Mook. I'm the Director of the Sector Economic Development and Innovation at the Ministry of Economic Development in Curacao. I will be a moderator for this event. I have to say that the Ministry of Economic Development, Hera2 Caribbean, the Zakitó District Cooling Company, and Omega Engineering Company have formed an alliance and a team to present today to you how innovative and sustainable visions can become reality. Therefore, there will be 4 presentations today. We don't have a lot of time, just 1 hour to enlighten you with a lot of interesting information. So we will have to make sure that we use our time wisely. Let me give you a short introduction of what you can expect from the speakers and their presentations. Our second speaker, Mr. Farley Virginia, is specialized in urban design, and he will present the vision of a sustainable development for the beautiful coastal area of Zakitó in Curacao. Then our third speaker, Mr. Gilbert Gouverneur, is specialized in deep sea water technique, and he will present how this technique has been applied at the south coast of Curacao in the form of a district cooling system. He will also show the business opportunities that the application of this technique has to offer. And last but not least, our fourth speaker is Mr. Tony van Sprang, and he is specialized in the application of the OWAC, the Ocean Water Assisted Cooling System, and he will show how the OWAC is put into practice in Curacao. But before we start with their presentation, I will give myself also a short presentation about the recently introduced energy policy of Curacao. Let me share my screen with you. It's just a brief presentation. The National Energy Policy of Curacao. We are all more than aware of the floods and droughts as a result of the climate change, and at the call for action to mitigate the negative consequences it has causes to our world. In Curacao, the Ministry of Economic Development has given this call also for mitigation the needed attention. Therefore, in 2018, we developed and introduced a national energy policy for Curacao with a plan laid out for 2018 to 2022. What we will share briefly with you is just the vision, the mission of this policy and the goals. Of course, there are also objectives and strategies, but it's a short presentation, so we'll just focus on that area. Furthermore, we can say that we are currently approximately at the 30% of total production that comes from renewable sources. And the aim within our energy policy is to reach the goal of 50% penetration of renewable energy by 2035. So that's the main goal of our energy policy. If you look at the vision, it strives for a reliable, affordable, secure, and sustainable energy system which supports the welfare and well-being of Curaçao's residents, but also contributes to make Curaçao the preferred country in the region for industry, trade, and tourism. So it's very important for us, for it to have also its implications for the cost of doing business. So to this end, the energy, water, and mobility infrastructure of Curaçao are among the best in the Caribbean, and we tend, of course, to keep it that way. Our mission, what we want to do is to support economic development and welfare increase by ensuring access to clean, affordable, and reliable energy supplies to all citizens, companies, but also other energy end users. The government aims to realize this by ensuring sustainable and economic development of Curaçao and increasing our competitiveness in the region. So we have three pillars that we're focusing on: enhancing the energy security through an energy supply that makes optimal use of locally available renewable resources. And this objective is to cover at least 50% of the national energy, like I already mentioned, by 2035. But besides this, we also want to reduce the national energy consumption per capita with at least 25% before 2040 compared with 2016. Via energy conservation, increased energy efficiency, and demand-side management, and realizing before 2023 a transparent and effective institutions and regulations for the energy sector. So we're working also on our energy regulation. That's very important. So to summarize, our goals within the national energy policy focuses on reliability, security, quality, sustainability, conservation, and affordability. So these are what we want to achieve for all the citizens and the companies in Curaçao. Before I end, I just want to show you that for years, the discussion has been whether or not greenhouse gases caused by the use of fossil fuel is the cause of the CO2 emission and the climate change. Global carbon emissions from fossil fuels have significantly increased since 1900. Since 1970, the CO2 emissions have increased by about 90%, with emissions from fossil fuel combustion and industrial processes contributing about 78% of the total greenhouse gas emissions increase from 1970 to 2011. That's why I want to show you that just recently in August 2021, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has released a first ever thorough report of almost 4,000 pages, leaving no doubt that we have to move from fossil fuel to friendlier and more sustainable energy alternatives. The findings of the IPCC 6th Assessment Report publication of August 2021 confirms that our planet is warming faster than previously thought. So we are on the track to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming above pre-industrial levels by 2030. So it's very important that we take action. And there was also a survey, global survey released recently that I want to share with you that illustrates the depth of anxiety many young people are feeling about climate change. Nearly 60% of young people approached said that they felt very worried or extremely worried. More than 45% of those questions said feelings about climate affected their daily lives. 3/4 of them said they thought the future was frightening. Over half percent, 56 for it to be exactly, say they think humanity is doomed. So the two third-party reported feeling sad, afraid, anxious, fear, anger, grief, and shame. So it's very serious, and I think the threat of climate change and the urgency for more sustainable and resilient development in the small island states development, small island development states, sorry, are more real than ever. So that's why I wanted to compare with you to enhance the urgency and the need that Curacao also has taken to implement our energy policy so we can be more sustainable. That's what I wanted to share with you in regards to our policy as an introduction to the team that we have today. But like I said, we have 3 other speakers, and I would like to go over to their presentations. Questions will be answered at the last 8 minutes of the event. So you can write your questions in the Q&A box, in the chat box. So let us know if you have questions. If you can show us or let us know to which one of the speakers the question is addressed, so we can share this later with them and be able to answer these questions. Without further ado, I will present our second speaker, and that is Mr. Farley Virginia. He has a master in architecture and urban design and has almost 20 years of experience in this field, working on projects in the Netherlands, specifically the city of Amsterdam and region, and also since 2010 in the Caribbean region. He's welcome back home. He is currently the managing director of 1920 Caribbean, but also function as senior architect, senior urban designer, and a senior project manager. So I give the word to Farley, and he will enlighten you with all the positive developments we want to see at the Zakitó area. Farley.
Great, thank you. Thank you a lot, Zulaika. Very nice introduction, indeed. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation also, and welcome everybody. A warm welcome to everybody listening to our presentation. Like Zulaika said, today I'm going to share with you our ideas about a vision we developed for a coastal development here in Curacao. It's called the Zakitó area. For the ones who don't know Curacao, it's very known, of course, for the monumental buildings that we have in our inner city, in our downtown area in Punda. Next to that area, that's the picture you see in front of you. You have another downtown areas called Otra Banda with Renaissance Hotel. You have a stadium over here, and you have a lot of other developments within this area. You have a combination of real estate development, but also natural resources like mangroves. You have the sea, of course. You have inner areas, lagoons, and you have also a coastal development piers where our cruise ships come in our city. What we did in 2018, together with a working committee consisting of different people within the government, of the different departments, we developed a vision document in 2018 for the whole area, and it was approved also by the Council of Ministers. One of the goals was to present an attractive but also visual document, and together with that, connected to that, the next steps to be taken in order to execute also as soon as possible the different projects, but also actions within the vision. The vision entails, and today I'm going to talk about just a small details and some minor principles within the vision. That entails a much more larger vision, of course, but due to time constraints, I can't go into all the details. But today I'm going to show you some of those core values within the vision, core values of the area, the challenges that we face within the area, and that's also afterwards, I'm going to show you the vision map that we developed together with different images. One important point in the whole vision is the opportunity to incorporate renewable energy, let me say principles, but also sustainability. And together with the real estate development, try to balance the natural part of it, the ecosystem that exists in the area, but also with let me say space to develop also real estate. Because those two go hand in hand together. In addition, some of you may know when you develop a vision, it's for a long term, and in order to have visual changes within the area, we develop also a quick win plan, and that helps also with the jump start of the whole redevelopment. And I'm going to show you some of the quick wins, some of the projects we already executed, and that there are some other quick wins that we're going to execute within a few months. Curacao, located, like Sharnon said in the first part of the presentation, located north side of Venezuela. Our neighbor islands, you have Aruba, and you have Bonaire on the other side. And if you look at the Zakitó area, it's located at the south part of Curacao. Like I said, you have Otrobán, you have also Punda, that's the downtown area of Curacao. So it's adjacent to the downtown area of Curacao. This picture you saw before, it's, like I said, it's a combination of real estate development also with natural, let me say, areas like the mangrove parks that you have over here in lagoons, but it's also an area with a lot of history. One of the main, let me say, main events that happened here is that one of the heroes of Curacao, local heroes called Tula, according to the history books, has been murdered, but also his remains have been thrown into water at this site, and you have also statues. So it is a very important, let me say, historic event that took place, and that has a lot of, let me say, a value also within the context of this area. One other important part is the middle of the area. You have the Aqualectra site. Aqualectra is our water and electricity company. Last Friday, they gave also a presentation about their ideas about the future. It's going to be very green, very a lot of renewable energy techniques, etc. are going to be incorporated. They are doing it already. So that's something we're going to also incorporate within the development. But at this moment, they are dismantling this water plant, and they're going to move to other areas within in Curacao. So within 3 to 4 years, they're going to this site here is going to be vacant and ready to develop other projects. If you look at the west side of the area where you have the lagoons, one of the major problems we have in this area is that some of these sites, water here, for instance, is polluted. And like also what Zulaika said about the climate change, we are seeing it already happen here at the coastal area, where water is rising, where water is, let me say, eroding. You see erosion here at the coastal area. So we need to do something fast here also in order to protect our land. Challenges, but also core values. I'm going to start with the core values. One of them is mangrove, the natural beauty that you have already, and it's very functional, of course, for the housing of the start of life for fishes, for example. At this moment is being polluted by sewage lines coming out here in the water. So we need to do something about that. Like I said before, Aqualectra site is going to be vacant within a few years. So plans will need to be developed how you're going to use this area in the future. One other part I mentioned already, our local hero together as colleagues. There's a statue in this area, and we think it's very important to incorporate this whole history. There are more historic events that took place in this area, but in order to make a successful, let me say, development, we need to incorporate also these historic events again and within the whole planning. One other very important, very interesting place is the Fisherman's Village, we call it over here. There are some functions here, like restaurants, etc., at the waterside. Also here, the houses, but also the restaurants, their sewage lines come out here in the water, polluting it, and you can see also, for instance, dead fishes in the water. One other very important, let me say, core value within the area, that's almost over the whole area, the southern coast of Curacao. You have coral reefs that are protected now by law, and so we need to take them also into account. How can we use this as an attraction also for the planning of the area? Lagoons, like I said before, some of them are polluted, so we need to do something about that. In the vision, we indicated that we want to use this in the future, these lagoons, as recreational areas. So you need to do something about the pollution. Like I said before, sewage lines coming out within the water, you need to clean it up. And at the moment, we started already here in the island with a project where the sewage lines and the different buildings are connected to the sewage lines, and the clean water that comes back from the sewage plant will be used, for instance, for trees, etc. Coastal protection, I already talked about that. Very important in the whole redevelopment of the area. The vision, I took just some of the principles, renewable energy, of course, and in a few minutes, my two other colleagues, Gilbert Gouverneur, but also Tony Wasprang, will talk about two techniques, how we can use the water in order, for instance, to cool the buildings that we have or we are going to develop also in the future, because that's one of the biggest challenges we have here. Everybody wants to cool every room they have, and as cold as possible. That's something that we have on these hot islands. But these are smart, I think, very interesting ways how not only here in Curacao but also other islands and other areas can use different techniques, but also to cool, for instance, their building. Access to ecosystem, like I said before, mangroves, corals, but also the water quality will need to be improved. And also we would like to use these ecosystems in the whole redevelopment to make it a success. And in every urban development, if you want to make it a success, some of the things you need to have are the 10 principles I have here mentioned. For instance, maintenance of your area, having the right budget in place. You need to have a type of critical mass to attract people to an area. But these are basically the principles you need to have in place in order to make an urban development a success. The vision map I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. I'm going to mention some of the things very important that you can notice. This is the pier that I showed earlier, the piers that we have. We want to have a connection between, that's one of the problems for the mangroves at the moment, is that the water within the area is not being refreshed. So the connection with the sea is very important. So that has been established now for this part, that has also been developed. But we would like to create more connection between the different water areas in order to make the water quality better. But also we want to improve the mangrove quality. So the sewage, like I said before, one of the main things we have to do is to collect it and do something about not let it come out in the water. The connection, again, like I said, very important. Improving the ecosystem, using the water as a very important quality for the area. Also creating connections between, let me say, the site here where you have urban development already, but we need a connection with this area. And very important also, we would like to have a connection all the way through all the different areas, connecting it to all the, let me say, the rural existing rural developments already.
Farley, due to the time management, you have just 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to go through it. To jumpstart, we like I said before, we had developed a quick win plan. We have started with a mangrove. This is the mangrove redevelopment recreational part that has been cleaned. Open it up so you have the vision. This is a site, for instance, where Aqualector is based now, is going to be a high density development, smart solutions, recollecting our water and using it for plants. I told you guys already about the cooling of the buildings with using water. Redevelopment of the area where the local hero is placed, the statue. Fisherman's Village, redevelopment also. These are some of the quick wins buildings that were there. We redeveloped them. And this is one mural that was developed already, that was painted already by a local artist, to aware people about not polluting, not throwing their garbage into the waters, etc. The collector also installed smart lighting, LED lighting in the areas, like some is like a pilot. And we are working now together with a local company, a plastic recycle company, to come up with a pilot for waste bins, and where also, let me say, the different materials can be separated. This was a presentation.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Farley. You showed indeed a natural area with some development possibilities. And of course that we have some challenges in how we can make it as sustainable as possible, but there are a lot of opportunities as you show also. So we are really committed to develop it also that way. Let us go to the third speaker from today, and that's Mr. Gilbert Gouverneur. He has a master in industrial engineering and management and a bachelor in mechanical engineering. Mr. Gouverneur has over 20 years of experience in the field of new business development and renewable energy, with a specialization in district cooling development, hybrid wind and solar project development, including technical, economic analysis and financial engineering. Mr. Gouverneur currently resides in the Netherlands and is working as senior business developer district heating and cooling for IndigoBlue. And he is also the co-founder of Eco Power International BV, a project development advisory platform in the field of renewable energy and related opportunities in the Caribbean. So a vast experience also. I give the word to Mr. Gilbert Gouverneur.
Thank you, Zulaika, and thank you also to the Island Innovation Organization for having us here. I'm always glad to contribute and explain what we are trying to do and what we will do in the future regarding sustainable energy and improving and making a sustainable world for the future of our children. I will give a presentation of our yes. I will be giving a presentation on the Zakitó district cooling project, and also enlightening the potential this type of technology and resource has for islands and coastal areas. Zakitó district cooling is a district cooling system. The basic of that is actually that you produce cooling for buildings in a centralized location and distribute it with a closed pipeline loop. The sources of cooling can be various. It can be conventional cooling systems, it can be rivers, it can be waste heat, but it can also be the ocean in our case on Curacao and many islands, which we have plentiful of it. And the ocean, you can use the surface water, as our colleague Tony van Sprang will explain with regard to OAK, but you can also use the more deep sea water for cooling purposes. And what we as Zakitó Cooling have done is develop a system that looks at the different type of cooling sources that are available and use that to optimize a system for the area. Zulaika also went into the following items regarding the need for us to go green, to be more sustainable, to reduce our pollution and our footprint worldwide. And district cooling can contribute to that. Worldwide, it could contribute to a large portion of that, because 20% of the electricity used in buildings is for cooling, and that's about 10% of the total energy use in the world. So cooling is very important, and for us to use and to cool in a sustainable manner will be very important. Furthermore, what you see in general worldwide is that because we're going to many electrical appliances to substitute fossil fuels, the grid capacity becomes a very becomes a bottleneck, which we have to be very creative with. And the result and the solution for that is actually the use of almost all sustainable and renewable energy sources and solutions there are to mitigate this this CO2 problem that we have. Characteristic of deep sea water, of course, it's very deep. It's about 850 meters deep. The water there actually comes with the ocean currents from the North Pole, and it's an ocean current that comes from the North Pole, from the Atlantic, all the way to Hawaii. And it takes about 2,000 years to reach Hawaii, and another 2,000 years to get back to the North Pole. The water at this depth is about 5 degrees. It has a lot of nutrients, and it's very sterile. And because of that, besides cooling, it has a very interesting potential for other purposes. Now I'm going to show you guys a short film. One second. How does this work? Oh. How can I?
Is everything okay?
I need to get out of the presentation for a second.
Stop sharing.
Yes, I don't have that button.
Above, you can see that you can stop the share.
Ah, okay, yes, thank you. Okay.
Curaçao, Wegenbouw Maatschappij, EcoPower International, Dierens Netherlands, Civil Engineering Caribbean, and DevCo Sweden have set up a cooperation to develop the Zakitó.
There's no volume anymore, is it?
Cooling system and thus provide all the customers with a sustainable, reliable, and cheaper means for cooling their buildings. Another benefit of the Zakitó district cooling installation is the opportunity to use the returned seawater for a deep seawater industry, a possible new economic pillar for Curacao. The Zakitó district cooling system and the subsequent potential for a deep seawater industry can be seen as an insurance for our future energy and food supply, now and for generations to come.
Because of the climate change, more of the larger countries will have to deal with more dry areas and longer periods of drought. The next world crisis will be the food crisis. Besides for cooling, another way of using the cold seawater from the bottom of the ocean is for activities in a deep seawater industry such as agriculture and aquaculture. Locations where this is being done are Nelha, Hawaii, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, India, and Bora Bora. After the water has been used for the cooling of buildings, it will still have a temperature of approximately 12 degrees Celsius, which is still cold enough for agricultural or aquacultural use. A system you could think of using is similar to the Dutch greenhouse system. But instead of heating them, as is done in the Netherlands, here in the Caribbean, we would have to cool the greenhouses. An additional side effect of cooling greenhouses in the humid Caribbean climate is free water due to condensation. Fish farming is also made more feasible with this deep seawater because at great depths the seawater is rich in nutrients and sterile, thus free of viruses and bacteria. With this system, we could start producing vegetables, fruits, and fish that cannot be produced in this region at the moment. We visited Nelha, Hawaii to have a look at their blooming deep seawater industry that has been running for more than 20 years. For instance, there is a shrimp farm that uses deep seawater that is sterile and full of nutrition to produce shrimp that are disease-free for the shrimp industry. There is also a company that takes the deep seawater to produce drinking water and bottles this for the Asian market. In Asia, there is a very large market for the centuries-old water, because this has great spiritual value for them. This industry has grown to become the largest export industry in Hawaii, with sales of approximately $140 million per year. In addition, there is the production of microalgae that is used in the medical and cosmetic industry. This industry will continue to grow rapidly because of the ever-aging world population. The deep seawater industry in Nelha contributes to the Hawaiian economy with approximately $90 million per year and has created almost 600 direct and indirect jobs. It also contributes directly to Nelha for the usage of the land and the water with approximately $5 million per year. In Bora Bora, they use the deep seawater for spa treatments, offering medicinal baths as a skincare method. With large-scale seawater projects, it will be possible to not only provide reliable hurricane and tsunami-proof, sustainable, and cost-effective cooling, but also develop a deep seawater industry, which can generate export earnings and in time provide all the vegetables and seafood. Deep seawater technology is a logical option in the journey towards green and more self-sufficient islands, independent of foreign influences like fuel and food markets.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the technology. It's fantastic. Yeah, so we are developing this the Zakitó district cooling system. As you can see here, it has a distributing system that will run through the area that Farley Virginia has just explained that is going to be developed. So basically all buildings that are projected there can be connected to this future district cooling system, and thus allowing them to have a sustainable cooling system that is independent from fossil fuels. Because it only uses about 2% of the energy that conventional cooling systems would use. The investment of Zakitó district cooling is about 50 million. It will have about 10 megawatt capacity. There it has a length of, the seawater intake pipe has a length of about 6.5 kilometers going to 850 meters depth, with a diameter of about 1 meter. Currently, as many projects have had the same problem, the project is delayed because of the COVID pandemic. But behind the scenes, we have been working very hard to get to financial close, and we expect to be able to start construction in 2022, so next year. These slides.
Gilbert,
Yeah.
you have just 1 minute and a half.
Okay, thank you. These slides have been shown in the movie, so I will not go through them. But this last slide is very interesting. It shows the macroeconomic effect of district cooling and the deep seawater industry, with an investment of about 50 million and about 10 million in the infrastructure of the deep seawater industry. You can create already for cooling macroeconomic effect of about 86 million over 20 years. But moreover, for the deep seawater industry, you can create an effect of about $2 billion and create also middle and higher level jobs. We expect about 400 jobs that can be created. So the deep seawater Zakitó district cooling can be seen as a catalyst for a much larger industry, that is the deep seawater industry, which can then be coupled to the system. There is a huge potential of this system all around the world. Already in the Caribbean, we see there's about $1 to $2 billion in projects as a potential. It is suitable at all coastal areas around the world because you don't need deep sea water. You can also use the surface water, as Tony van Sprang will show you in a few minutes. So there is a very large potential to make cooling at coastal areas, but also other areas in the world, much more sustainable. This was my presentation, and I hope with district cooling and deep sea water industry, we can contribute to make this world a more self-sufficient and sustainable place for our children. Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Gilbert. Like you said, or you can see, cooling is important for businesses to operate and draws a lot of energy because it produces a lot of CO2. So the alternative energy source definitely helps. And Mr. Gouverneur showed that next to the primary benefit, there are also secondary benefits as a result of applying the seawater district cooling system and the contribution to the economy and the job creation. So I believe it's a good system and technique. So hopefully you have learned a lot of this also. It has intrigued you to look much further into this system. I will continue because the time is like flying by. We have the last but not least speaker for today. That is Mr. Tony van Sprang. He has a Master of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. He is an experienced consultant of more than 35 years with a demonstrated history of working in the mechanical or industrial engineering industry. He is also a design and construction management of mechanical installations for ocean and storm water handling, potable water and a sewage management system, fire system, building management system. So he has vast experience in a lot of areas. He is the managing director at this moment and consulting engineer at the Omega Engineering Inc. So I give the word to Mr. Tony van Sprang. Yes. Can we make Tony central in the Zoom? Thank you. Yes, Tony, go ahead.
Okay. Am I in the center now?
Yes,
Well,
you have to share your screen. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Zulaika, for your introduction and also for the invitation to present some interesting technology here for island nations. I will put in my presentation. Yes, okay. There we are. Okay, our presentation is about ocean water assisted cooling. So the acronym is OAC. And OAC was basically developed successfully by Omega Engineering. Okay, who is Omega Engineering? I am the director. We have a core team of engineers, Luciana Petit, Jocelyn Navarro, and for the development, the marketing and communication, René van Zijl. I'm working about almost 40 years as a consulting engineer and designer. In the last years of my career, with regard to OAC, we won some awards in the United States and in Europe, which we are very proud of. And in 2017, we were awarded by the Association of Energy Engineers as the Engineer of the Year. So, and that was all related to the development and deployment of OAC here in Curacao. So what is OAC? Well, OAC is very straightforward. What you normally do is, by cooling a building, is taking energy out of the building, so removing it and moving it into the outside environment. With OAC, we do basically the same, but we don't move it to the air, but we move it to the ocean. And there's a very good reason why we do that. And we will explain that now to you. OAC is not a generation, it's not on the generating side of energy, but on the consumption side. So on the left, on the generation, we are all known by fossil fuel, wind, solar, geothermal energy that is transported through the grid and delivered at the consumer where it is consumed. Large part of the energy that goes through the grid is consumed for air conditioning. OAC reduces the consumption of air conditioning by up to 75%. So with 1 unit of energy that you would use normally to feed 1 consumer, now you can feed 4 consumers. So the objectives of OAC are to reduce the energy cost of the consumption. The world trend, as Zulaika also mentioned it in the introduction, the IPCC has come now with a devastating report, and everybody, every nation in the world, every island will have to conform in the future to a lot stricter regulations than what we have experienced to now. So OAC conforms to that. So we are in support of a low emission strategy, for the short and long term future, so to conform to the IPCC. And it is a low impact, and with low impact, I mean for the environment, and a cost effective system. The return, if you look at it from a financial point of view, the returns are very attractive in in financial models. So the concept is that we reduce energy, like I said, by 60 to 80% in that bracket, and that we compared it to regular air conditioning equipment. The lifespan of the equipment, because it is worked or designed and engineered to work with seawater directly, it is 2 to 3 times longer than conventional air-cooled equipment in the Caribbean, because we have a salt-laden air that is very corrosive, or can deal with that. So we have a lower maintenance cost on the plant itself, a small footprint, and in the end, a positive environmental contribution, and also, last but not least, a lower cost for the power infrastructure. Like I showed before, you can serve a lot more consumers with the same amount of energy. So the grid is not so loaded with energy transfer as it normally would be. Okay, in practice, I show some pictures now of systems that we already have put in place. The OX system that is in operation now here in Curacao runs now for almost 8 years, and it runs better than we have anticipated, in our specs to our customer. But I will go through some pictures, and it's mainly how we bring the seawater in, what methods we use. This is for quite a big system of 1,200 tons. This is a small system of about 100 tons that we have installed. This was our first system, and the performance of this system is amazing. I will come later in the presentation. I will show you some figures about it. So you also see that the pipeline doesn't really go out in the sea. The intake is right at the retaining wall. So very, very close to the consumption point. This is inside the plant, how we set it up. Okay, so what are the properties of an OX installation? Because it's different from a normal air conditioning. So you need a coastal space for the water intake, yeah, and basically only for the intake and the outflow. The consumer doesn't have to be very close to that intake. It can be further inland or along the coast. The development of an OX system is a little bit more complex than a standard system, because we have to take way more elements into consideration and in the engineering plan. And also it has a higher initial cost than regular AC equipment and systems. And that can be up to 3-4 times as high as. The next, a lot of questions we get is, okay, what about the coral reefs? Do you damage? Is there any damage? And up to now, we have to say no, because we don't have to go far into the ocean, and the coral reefs normally have a depth bracket. So the further you go out and the deeper it gets, you get a depth bracket where most of the corals are, and we don't even go that deep. We stay very, very close to the coastline. Here's some pictures of this is a 90 centimeter pipe that we installed to the first plateau, and you see it's only sand here. And as a matter of fact, the ocean life considers the pipe as a shelter to protect them, as you can see.
Only you have 1 minute left.
Okay, I go very quickly. AC is the biggest consumer in the Caribbean. This is the average by the power companies in the Caribbean. Energy prices are on the rise here in Curacao, and also in general, if you project it over 20 or 30 years, there will be quite a cost involved with that. This was our first OAK system. The recovery, the ROI on this particular project was 3.5 years. This is a graphical display about earnings and or the return of the investment over time. I will go. If you look at the future, what is happening now in the world with the weather, droughts, fires, floods, is all related to climate change, and the IPCC has a few years ago already given guidelines where to look for to have some control. Okay, what is a very important point of OAK is that you can develop eco-responsible, you can come close to zero climate impact, it's affordable, sustainable, and therefore also future-proof. The technology is future-proof. I will skip this. The layouts of OAK can be for a single building, clustered multiple buildings, or district cooling. Yeah, it's a very flexible system that can be scaled up to your need. The minimum is about 100 tons of refrigeration. That's the minimum size, and the maximum is undetermined. Thank you. This was what I had to add to this this presentation.
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Tony. Like Tony said, he explained the OAK was created by Omega Engineering, and that is he is a proud winner of the Regional Energy Globe Award in 2019. Due to this, congratulations. You see that the OAK focuses on and has an objective to reduce energy consumption, something that I mentioned in my presentation also as part of our national energy policy. He also explained the concept and went on to show the application of the OAK in practice, indicating that this is surpassed their expectations, and that is a good sign. So we are very great that Tony have explained this all of us too. What we are not being able to do right now is to do the Q&A. As you can see, we are already at the end of the presentation. So we asked the question to be submitted by the chat box so we can answer these questions later on. If you indicate to whom the question is, then we can take a charge that the questions will be answered by the speakers of today. I wanted also to say that the presentations, I believe the recording also by the Island Innovations is being done and will be available for the participants. That was a question that was being asked. So you can get the information afterwards also. Okay, I think it was very enlightened, short. We tried to give you as much information as possible. I think the whole view came across very good, and for me it was for sure. So we're very happy to have shared this with you. Like I mentioned before, the threat of the climate change and the urgency for more sustainable and resilient development for the 6 islands are more real than ever. So with this in mind, we emphasize also the need for Curacao to implement its energy policy goals and objectives as planned. So you can be assured that we will go through and further with this. We have hope that you enjoyed the presentations for today, that you have received information to further elaborate, and that your questions have been answered or will be answered later when you submit them to us. Otherwise, you can always engage with us through the Virtual Island Innovation Platform. Thank you very much for your active participation. I don't think there's anything that to be added. I'm looking for the speaker, Sharnon. I think everybody has said what they wanted to say. All right. So thank you very much and for sticking with us through the whole hour. The Curacao team appreciates this, and we wish you a happy Wednesday further. Goodbye from our behalf. Have a nice day.
Okay. Bye-bye.